Welcome back to Freedom Algo. So today is January 22nd, 2025. This is going to be our chart review. So obviously the price action is still going on. It's only about 9:42 a.m. Pacific time. But the market got really slow. You can see the ATR, the 21 period ATR is below a 2, which means the volatility is extremely low. This is one of those days where you can actually get trades with smaller than an 8 tick stop loss, which is always nice. But also, you're not going to get much more than 4 ticks on any scalps today. It's not a day where you're going to catch runners very often. And that's just the way it is. So the way I saw it is like this. We had this channel working up. We get a close outside, a couple legs to a new high. And then it kind of turned into some ranges and flatter channels. So I ended up drawing this bigger channel here. So it's like a spike and channel pattern. There's some other channels that are working within this, and they all played out. So price action is playing out as it should, but it's very slow. This is one of those days where it's very slow, and there's also periods where there's a lot of congestion. So there's points where you would get into a trade today, and you're sitting in the trade for like 5 minutes. And that was happening quite a bit. So just wanted to call that out. And let's see what we got here. So the way I was looking at this here when we came in today was I was actually looking at a possible flatter channel that was in play here. It ended up not playing out. It ended up just closing outside of it. But after it closed outside of it, I was expecting a new high on that because even though we got a new high on this other channel, I was thinking, hey, this up channel was in effect. And also earlier on today, you could have argued, I'm just going to draw it here, that there was actually a wider channel that was not a wider channel, but that this was all just one big channel that looked kind of like this. And that actually fits totally fine. And this is the first break of it. So if that is the channel, either one gets you to the same conclusion. We're looking for a new high. And so there ended up being a second entry long here. It's a little sideways, but it's a really bullish bar. And so I ended up taking that trade and got a scalp out of it. So decent setup. It then ends up not working. It actually fails and goes down, but I wouldn't take this failure because we were still expecting a new high on that channel. And it ends up going into a slightly bearish trend that you had once you draw off of this close. And then there's a nice setup here where basically you have a first entry short, second entry short right off the trend line after it's already been confirmed. So you could take that. You got room to the lows. You do have to get out at the lows, though, because it was bouncing there, and you had to be aware of that. And then it went sideways. There's nothing in here. Eventually, this broke out over here, and then it got a close. It didn't really make a new low. I think it's like an equal low to that low. So then it reversed. Now, after it reversed here, I drew the wider channel off of that low, and I also drew a measured move from here to here, and then from this low upward. We ended up not really getting the measured move yet, but we are still making progress, so it's possible that we get it. It's not really likely to just go up like that because we're not really getting two legs. We're just getting a spike and a channel. So the channel could keep grinding up, we'll see. But anyway, what we ended up getting after that was a lot of sideways action that kind of grinded up, and you can see all that in here, all this congestion, just really strange bars and whatnot. And so after that, you get a first entry, second entry short that fails, but it's not really. It's kind of like two legs because there's really a second entry short that triggered here that failed, but I wasn't taking anything in all this sideways action. I drew a channel like this one right here. We did get a close outside and then a second entry long, so I like that one because when the way I look at it is if I'm expecting a new high and I get the close outside and the setup, then I'm going to take it. Because the most likely scenario here, after a close outside of this trend line, is that you get a first entry, you get this, and you get a second entry, which you could also argue the downtrend is played out, especially when the downtrend is played out. So if you have a micro down channel like this, right, which I didn't draw it, but it's there. 1, 2, 3 candles kind of form this little micro down channel, something like this, right, probably off of that close. It's a tighter one. And then it gets a close outside, and then it makes the new low, plus it's a second entry. It means the down channel here has already played out, and the up channel hasn't. So you're expecting the new high, and that's why you take that long there. Now, also, there's a possibility of a wider channel that was in play, because you got this low, this touch, this close. So I drew that on there just in case. And, it's hard to say for sure because what we might have had was a close outside and a couple legs to a new high. They're not measured legs, but from this low to this high is one leg. And then from this low to this high is leg two. And then you get a lower high. So it did play out. But also, if this channel was in play, then what you get here from this high is a first entry, and then it closes outside and gives you a second entry long. And you could take that one. It's a little risky because it's below the EMA at this point, and it might try to make a new low, but that is a close outside and a new low all at once on this channel. And the price action did work. You actually get a matching low here, which you could take as a higher low. And they both work, but again, this was a congested sideways day. And you can see this is why we put our stop loss one tick below the bars. Because you would have stayed in these. I actually took this green arrow trade, and I had to sit a while. It eventually filled, I think, on this candle. But it eventually would have filled you up here, even if you had to wait for it to tick through. So it does work. There's a triple test here, but at this point, it's way too sideways. And triple test here, even, that's a quadruple test. But it was just too sideways at that point, and I just let the trade play out. But they're both valid. I just think that it was a little too congested to be taking that afterwards. And it's just that kind of day. There was a lot of congestion moments. So I saw this as a close outside looking for a new high, and we get it right here. Then I drew this range because it seemed like we were kind of respecting a range. We ended up having a slight downtrend here, and there is a first entry, second entry short off of this channel that's been confirmed down. And you do have a little bit of room to the lows. You did just break back in from these lows, but you have plenty of space. And even if you draw this low here, if this was like the low of a range, you have room to get there. So you have enough space to scalp to there. So I do think, I'm pretty sure you did actually. I mean, there's just enough. You really need the extra tick to tick through probably. But I liked it because we just broke through right here. And the channel was more relevant to me because I was expecting us to come towards the lows of this bigger channel, which we did. We broke down. We got a close outside here, and then it just shoved down, and it bounced off of that level and turned into this big uptrend. Now, on this big uptrend, I did like this one as a failed second entry short. It's a little risky, but you have room to the highs. So I actually took this trade, and what I did was I think I got out like right up here at this blue line, like right before the highs, or it might have been, I might have gotten out right at the highs of the thing. I forget exactly what it was. I know I took 4 ticks, so let me just measure it. I forget, because I took it from here. So I got in 1 tick above that bar, and I think I got out like right there, because I just was going for 4 ticks. What I did with this one was I actually put my stop order on the other side of this candle, because it was a failed second entry short. So I didn't wait for this big candle to close. I actually entered it right here. So as this thing broke lower and reversed, it filled me 1 tick up on the other side of this, and I had plenty of room to the highs of the channel and room to this high. So it was a safe trade for me, but it is more advanced, so I'm just going to mark it green. It then comes up here. We'll get this big bearish bar and a close outside. I took this trade too, and this was a nice short. You had to have a pretty big stop loss for this one, but you get your 4 ticks on it. It works out okay. I will say, if you measure it from that low, it only goes exactly enough to fill you. It doesn't tick through. So I got filled, but this one is green, and it might have failed you. Like, you might have failed there. So the thing about this one is that it's a better trade to enter on a limit order. After it breaks below and comes back, you could enter a limit order further back and try to take it. That would get you the trade working out pretty well. But this is one of those ones where it has to be marked green. It's not a perfect setup. It did fill me on this wick, but some people probably didn't get filled there if they tried to take that. But that's the beauty of ATM strategies. Now, there is a first entry, second entry long here. It's a little risky because there's still a down channel that's possibly in play. It's hard to say. The channel could be tighter, and that could be a close outside. It's hard to say for sure. But it is a second entry. After a move that bullish, you're probably expecting it to at least succeed a bit, and it would have worked, so it's reasonable. Then it just kind of gets sideways over here, and there's not really anything else I see. I mean, there is a first entry, second entry short here, and that is the close outside. It is another leg up, so there's a possibility there, but again, you'd be sitting sideways in this. It's not great. Probably doesn't even work, to be honest. Then this thing breaks above, so there's just a lot of congestion here. Let me move this a little bit. It moved on me. There we go. Okay, so then here there's a first entry, second entry long that fails, but it's not really the best setup. You are looking for a new low on this channel, but it's still this up channel's in effect. It's really hard to say for sure. I wouldn't be looking necessarily to take that. You can draw this down channel here because it does look like we are kind of respecting one. It looks to me like probably about right there. And then I draw it off this low here. So there is a down channel that's in effect. It doesn't seem super strong because the reality of this situation here is that we kind of have, we've been doing this all day. We've kind of forming these like little ranges. And honestly, this one, you could argue if you take that low right there, it fits pretty decently like that as a possible range. So there's a bearish bias here. It is making lower highs, but it's not making lower lows. And we've seen this a couple times today where we've kind of had a trend within a range that sort of eventually one of them wins out. But it makes it risky for trading. You got to be careful. Like taking a triple test to the long side here is not a great option because you have a downtrend right above you. I actually saw one of those earlier. Yeah, this one. This second entry short is also a first entry, second entry long with a higher low, but it's not a good setup because even though there was some lows here like that, it's not a good setup because you have a downtrend and you're going short right into the EMA and that downtrend channel, and everything is starting to make lower highs. And same thing here. You wouldn't want to try to take a long here because it's probably not going to go very far before it stops you. So that's what I saw today. A lot of green trades, but if early on there were some red arrow and blue arrow trades, which are always the safer setups. So pretty decent, but the volatility is low. I think that the market will probably get more volatile tomorrow and the next day as the news releases come out. So just be ready for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, also, I forgot to mention that I'll be doing the live stream after this with the members of the community. So I'll be doing the YouTube live where we go over everything in a lot more depth today. So I'll see you there.